Alright, this is the recap and look ahead video. So just want to go over some few things. Basically, I like doing this at the end of the season. Do a recap of how the past season went, what I thought of each series, since I do try different series, multiple different series every season. Just give a little thought on how it went. So we'll get started. Road series, I did the production car sim lab challenge in the Mazda this season. I was in division 2. I finished my division 34th. Overall, I finished 69th. It was a very good season for me, especially in this car. Last time I drove this car in this series was season 2 of 2020, and I was in division 5, and I finished 59th in my division, 330th overall. So major improvement over the last 2 years. I came to this. I was in this series last season in the Solstice, and seeing the cars and seeing the way the guys drove, I had gained a lot of iRating in the Solstice. Basically, because there's not a whole lot of cars. There's not a lot of participation in the Solstice. So I was expecting to actually lose a lot of the safety rating that I had gained. But it turns out I could compete in this series. One viewer helped me with setups. There's not a whole lot to change. I don't like tweaking. To me, it's boring on a lot of the setups and everything. But he made some suggestions, and I used that. I basically stuck that ever since Sebring all the way through. But this series, I gained 224 iRating this series, or this season, in this car. So that was good for me. I was not expecting to do that. Like I said, I was expecting to lose 300, 400, 500 iRating. But I will say this series in this car killed my iRating. I averaged less than 4 incidents a race. This, I was averaging 4.6, 4.7 a race. So, yeah, this series really killed my iRating. I think the lowest I got was like a 210. I don't use my A license, but I would like to keep it. The guys in this series, it's very aggressive driving in this series. I'm not an aggressive driver, especially at the beginning. And the way these cars draft, like on the big draft tracks, Watkins Glen, Daytona being specific, you can't get away from these guys, and it's just you're bunched up. You want some really close racing. This series can do it. If you want to try to conserve safety rating, this is not the series to do it. A lot of the problems, are the Mustangs. The Mazda is the second fastest class in this mixed class series. Mustangs being the fastest. I don't know why, but a lot of sub 1,000 drivers drive the Mustangs, and they are slower than the Mazdas. They are unsafe. So you end up battling with cars that shouldn't be slower than you are, but you are. What makes it so bad is you catch the Mustangs in the corners because they struggle, and you catch them in the corners, and you may pass them in the corners, and then you get in a big long straight, and they pass you right back. So you're constantly back and forth with these guys. It's just a matter of time until they lose it. And I've been taken out by numerous Mustangs. At least it feels that way. I've been in a few races where Mustangs have taken out the leaders. So slow Mustangs are a problem in this series. The slower cars you can work around, you can get around, but the slower, faster cars are what makes this series extremely difficult and extremely frustrating. That being said, I will be coming back to this series, maybe not this coming season, but maybe a season away, 1 or 2 seasons, and I will be driving the Mustang. So I can maybe then get a better feel of what it's like to drive the Mustang. I don't own the Mustang. I haven't driven the Mustang. I don't know what it's like. I assume there's a lot of power to it. It's very fast in the straights. So, you know, I could sympathize with the Solstice drivers. Didn't skip the Jetta because there's just not, when I race, I want at least 6 cars in the class. And when I went back and did my research, there just wasn't that participation, constant participation in the Jettas. So I skipped the Jettas, went to the Mazdas, had a lot of fun. There were some good races. I actually won one. Was not expecting to win a race in this car, but I did. So it's fun, but it's very frustrating. It's not my favorite, but when I look at my iRating and how I've done, it's actually my 4th best series in terms of iRating gain. So I will probably revisit this one way down the road. I've got so many other series that I want to run and try out, but it's good. The Mazda in the series is good. Solstice, not so much. Just the participation level in the Solstice isn't there, but great participation in the Mazda. Unfortunately, with this series, though, everybody looks at it as the multi-class, and it's only multi-class in the top split. If you're in the 2nd or 3rd split, it's just strictly Mazdas only. So if you're lower iRating and you come into this, you may not have an issue of the slower Mustangs. So it may work for you, but once you get in that top split, you're going to have to be careful with the slower Mustangs. They can be bad. I mean, there was quite a few races that I out-qualified the Mustangs, so I knew starting off I was already faster than the Mustangs. So keep that in mind, but it just depends on what your iRating is and what splits you get into, whether or not you're going to have to deal with the multi-class. The other series, one of the other series, new series that I tried out, was the fixed SK Modified Weekly Series. I was really looking forward to this. Really looking forward to getting in this car. It just looks fun. Now, it is a fixed series, and I struggle with fixed oval series. But this is my first time in this car. I was in Division 1. I did finish 10th overall, or 10th in my division, 25th overall. The participation, we had a lot of races that split, so the participation is there. But I have problems with this car. I struggle with this car. This is probably the worst series I have been in, and I'm not talking from other driving standards. I'm talking about my capability to compete. Very struggle. I end up losing 412 iRating in just this series. So some of the things I'll say about the car is, I can only compare it to a late model. It's the same horsepower as the late model, but it's 500 pounds lighter. So when you're going into the corners, you're not using as much brake as you do in the late model. When you don't use a whole lot of brake, the brake bias doesn't really help you. Brake bias in the late model, I was constantly using it, turning it down about every 10, 12 laps to help get my rotation into the corner. This car, you're not using the brake a whole lot. It doesn't help. It didn't help me. So I struggled with that. Qualifying is extremely important. These cars, it's like follow the leader. It's very hard to pass because you don't get that rotation you can't do anything about the rotation in. It's very hard to get. It's kind of like the late models. It's hard to get a run off. But the late models, those cars, if you're not adjusting the brake bias, you can wear out your tires, and those cars can get tight. These cars, I didn't really have that problem. I mean, once you get in the bottom and you hug the bottom, you can stay there the entire race. The cars are so light, you're not using the brakes a whole lot. You're not wearing out the tires a whole lot. So it's a lot of follow the leader. So if you want to finish good, you got to qualify good. Some of that is where I struggled, and I started mid-pack, and that put me in a mess because, one, I'm not as aggressive as some other people are, put me in a bad situation. I had quite a few incidents here. It wasn't severe, but these cars are very touchy. It's like they're open wheel cars, but yet they're not open wheel cars. They have the roll cages in between the tires and everything. But the slightest bump, I mean, you breathe wrong and you're going to get a 4X. I mean, it's just very hard. And I've gotten into the back of some other cars. A lot of those incidents weren't other people's fault. I mean, in this car here, I will take blame for probably about half of them. It was hard for me to judge where the front of that car was, and I had gotten into the back of some people sometimes and didn't think I was that close, but I was. The air intake, the carburetor, it sticks up and it causes a blind spot. So it's a fun car to drive. I am going to give the Open Series a shot, probably in a season or two. But sorry, I had to cough and didn't think you wanted me coughing in your ear. I will give the Open Series a shot in a season or two. But man, for hopefully that will be different because I can adjust the car to my driving style. That's part of the problem I have with the fixed series. I'm not the best driver. A good driver can adjust to the car, and I can't. I'm not that talented. So maybe having an Open Series to where I can adjust the car, but I don't know. They're so light, you're not using a whole lot of the brake. I don't know if it's going to be any different. I'm hoping it is, but I don't know. But this car, the fixed series, is a lot of follow the leader, and you finish where you qualify. There's very little passing. So again, I'm hoping the Open Series is different. I'm hoping when I get to the tours for a little more horsepower, maybe that'll change up and maybe it'll be some better racing. But I don't know. I was kind of disappointed in this series, and I didn't do so well, so that didn't help either. One of the series I did again this year, I just did a one race a week thing, and that was in the 305 sprint cars. I like these cars. They're a lot of fun. I struggle at some tracks. I do decent at some tracks. So I have my ups and downs. I ended up losing 29 iRating over the course of the 12 weeks that I ran. So to me, that's not bad. I was in Division 2. I finished 84th in my division. I finished 209th overall. Again, I had some pretty bad races. I had some pretty good races. So it kind of evens out in the end. So I have driven this car for the last 2 seasons, at least some. So I've driven it pretty consistent since season 3 of 2020. So yeah, I like this car. I'll come back to it eventually. But it's kind of like my one-off that I'll do every now and then. So enjoy it. One of the series that I started late in because the production car and the SK, I was doing 3 races a week in each of those series. But my time constraints and just really racing 3 races in the SK kind of got a little boring. Playing follow the leader so much that I changed it up, and I'm going to change it up going forward. But about week 8, I decided to only do 2 races in those series, so that opened me up for 2 more races in the week, because I tried to do 8 races a week. So I went back to the late model tour, open series. Only did 4 races. I was in Division 1. I finished 53rd and 142nd overall. Like I said, those were only 4 races. I always have fun in these cars. Always have pretty good races. Clean races. For me, they're not always clean races for everybody. But if you can run up front and you can work your way around the lap traffic, you can do pretty good. In the 4 races in this series, I gained 95 I rating this year, or this season. So it was a good fun race. Now the other race that or the other series that I tried again that I've done before is the ARCA Menards series. Now, the minute I jumped out of rookies when I started, I got into this car, drove this car, couldn't really wait to get out of this car, drove it every now and then. But the driving standards was pretty bad, and I could not wait to get out. So I revisited one race last season, and it went okay. I ran 4 races this year in this car, all of them clean, all of them a lot of fun. It reminded me that this car can be a lot of fun, especially if you're in one of the upper splits. So I did gain 149 I rating in this series. So yeah, so these cars are fun. I will probably revisit this. Right now, my top 4 series are the late model opens, the 305 sprint cars, the ARCA series, and actually the production car in the Mazda. So one of the other races that I try to do, I haven't done that much of, is the NIS. I was doing the A series open, but because I don't get to race that very often, I decided, well, I'll just do the NIS. And I didn't get that many races in the NIS this season, these last 12 weeks, I guess, because it's a big long season. I've had a really good race, my first race, had a bad race at New Hampshire. Didn't even post that video because it lasted 7 laps, wasn't even worth watching. Had a couple of road races, and then Daytona, which is a crapshoot for me anyways. So far, I'm down. Sorry. So far, I'm down, I think, 142, 145 I rating in this series, but I race this series just because I like to race it. Some days I don't want to race it, but we'll see. I want to try to do a full season, so next year I'll race it again, and then I may revisit the idea of whether or not I'm going to continue running NIS. But there's another 8 races this season until it's over. So that's kind of the breakdown on all the series that I ran this season. I'm going to try to break it up in the video so it's easier to get through, but if you've already seen this part, you've already watched it all, so don't know how well that's going to do. Probably should have made that announcement at the beginning. But anyways, so now we're going to look ahead. So going forward, I'm going to do 3 new series, 2 races each, and then I'm going to have my NIS series, and then I'm going to have a one-off series, basically the one where I race 1 race a week in that series. So for my road racing this year, or this season, I'm going to do the fixed GT4 challenge in the Aston Martin. A lot of people like Mercedes. I don't like the look of that car. To me, it's ugly as crap with that long nose on it. So I'm going to do the Aston Martin. I didn't like the BMW when I drove it in the 12.0 challenge, but I did good in that series. But I never liked the BMW. It just never looked good. So if I'm going to be bad, I'm going to be bad in a car that I think looks good, and that's going to be the Aston Martin. So then we're going to move on to the oval side, asphalt, and I'm going to try out the fixed late models. Again, I don't do very good in fixed, but I want to try it, give it a shot. The ARCA is fixed, and I seem to do okay in that. Doesn't mean I'm going to do okay in the fixed late models. And then I'm also going to give a new series, the Dirt limited late models. The only dirt cars that I have driven have been the Legends, which a lot of fun, just no participation, and the sprint cars. So I have no experience whatsoever on iRacing on dirt with a car that has fenders. So that's going to be a whole new learning curve to me. But we're going to give that one a shot. So the GT4 we're going to do 2 races in. The fixed late models we're going to do 2 races. The limited late models we're going to do 2 races. And then my one-off series is actually going to be the late model, the open late model. It's my best series. I have fun in that series. So we're going to do that race once a week. And then we're going to do, of course, the NIS. Now, when the NIS is over with, because we've only got 8 more weeks to go. There's 12 weeks in the season. But those last 4 weeks, we're probably going to add back the 305 sprint cars. So you'll get to see that towards the end of the season if those are the cars that you're into. So that is that's a look at what went on this last season and how I felt about each series, and look ahead and let you guys know what I'm going to be racing. So thanks for watching, and hope to see you guys out on the track. Thanks.